Hey, okay, because clearly I'm not getting dressed up for these. It's hot, and I know I look crappy. I don't really care. I just didn't notice that, but I do want to. I want to get to this. This. I keep going back to this systemic narcissism. That is a real thing, and so I'm going to keep harping at it until this gets picked up and people start responding and maybe asking questions. I don't know if that'll ever happen. I'm nobody. I don't even know what I'm doing, just talking. But it needs to be said, and at least if nothing else, I've got a record now while my hands are killing me. If I can get back to really typing, I can write it. Or, find a way to dictate this into writing. But it's worth trying this new format that maybe more people are paying attention to in a different way. That my first education in this sort of systemic narcissism really came a good 10 years ago or a little more. And it was in a situation where literally, I was in an environment, both as a client and as a worker, as a caseworker, for a doctor who ran a 30-day recovery program, which really taught me a lot about how to question those 30-day programs. And since I've done a whole lot of more research on my own, again, another discussion. Everybody's got an opinion on that. I happen to have worked all over that environment and seen how it's treated, see the people that get pulled into it. These days we've got a situation where police show up and say you've got a choice, jail or homeless shelter. It used to be you've got a choice, jail or 30-day program. I don't know if people are still doing that too. But it was a lot of just you're out and drunk or stoned or something. Or just, we don't want you here. So what I saw was a doctor who was literally, pointing fingers at the general practice, that she had to send people to on Medicaid, or, it's a Medicaid mill, but, you just have to wait there, and all that, and they just rush you through, which is exactly what she was running. This doctor was running a Medicaid mill right there. Okay, so this is where, as a worker and a client, I'm on two sides of this, and I'm seeing how usually as a caseworker, I've got one billable unit per person, 15 minutes, and it's to find something to do long enough to justify 15 minutes, because you have to do that. They're tracking that because it's billable units, and we got to make sure we're really keeping people there. We're not defrauding them, even though we're sitting there doing nothing. And then on the other end, seeing my Medicare statements come in, so at least I knew the massive amounts of money for just the little bit that I was getting myself. And I'm seeing us rope people into, you've got to have a caseworker, a psych nurse, the psychiatrist, of course, and therapist. We probably have to have somebody manage your money, and suddenly you've got 4 or 5 people that are charging like one billable, that's your caseworker and probably your nurse. Your benefits specialist, one billable if you need that. 3 billables for your therapist. 1 to 3 for the psychiatrist. Those are a lot of, first of all, a lot of billable units, and that's a lot of 15-minute increments taking up your time outside of the waiting in the waiting room. So that's where I saw that, what I recognized immediately when I realized that nobody comes in the door and just whatever they give you in that intake, or that intake also is a billable collection of billable units in itself. You can't just get into a therapist anymore, which is how it used to be, just go to the therapist. Now it's not even a matter that they'll do that intake and go, okay, well, you'll see the doctor and you'll see the therapist, and then we'll talk about medication, and I mean it's a whole wrap you up in it, and the next thing you know, you are a repeat customer on demand. You've got to come every month to see each of these people, more often if we think you need to. Okay, think about it, the amount of time that's taking up out of your life, and again, what are you really getting out of it? Because I'll say again, the therapist in there is the one that really matters. At this point, the services, all the rest of the services are so hit or miss and random and hard. I mean, I plan to keep away with them. And I'm seeing just, sometimes we can help each other out to figure out which ones of those services and how to get to them either easier than waiting for your caseworker to get around to it, and not be afraid of the way you're, processing or whatever, manifesting in front of them. That's the next part of this. But okay, so we've had that Medicaid mill and basically that abuse of all insurances for a long time, and it was probably around right close to the turn of the century, or like in the 90s sometime, when they really just went into that repeat revenue model. Because what that is we get to collect from your insurance, whether it's Medicaid, Medicare. Believe me, they're collecting money, repeat revenue every month on you. You are their sustainable customer base that they add to every day. Grow it. And we're not paying anybody very much, so it doesn't, it doesn't amount to a lot on the overhead. We bill for that anyway. So, and there is money floating around. There's a lot of free money. There are grants written based on, we're expanding our services, and we're in the news for this, and we're doing it. And we got a great big grant so that we can add on a couple of offices and hire a doctor, and wow, we're so wonderful. I mean, this is a place that literally monopolized an entire region with 2 narcissistic psychiatrists at the top. And one of the things that at least one of them was doing, this woman was a complete mesmer, about my age, about my build, very attractive, very hip, very cool, and she had especially all these young women, the men too, just mesmerized by her, and people coming out of a 30-day program, especially these young women coming into my office going, oh, I love Doctor. She gives me Xanax. Now, I had been through that with her. She loaded me up to the point that she had me on 8 milligrams of that shit, and when I went to her terrified of something that had happened to me and knowing full well, I was like, hey, you know what this is doing to you. You know the trick of this drug, and you know you need to get off. Go to her and say, listen, I am ready to get off this stuff. Total narcissist fit. Yeah, I am not going to help you do that. You're manic, and that's why you... How is anybody manic on 8 milligrams a day of Xanax is all I'd want to know. Right then, I'm sitting there dumbfounded going, I can't even get to, argue with you, much less be manic. And I went home literally having to do that myself. But, realizing also that she's doing this. And then having to have a discussion with another caseworker coming to me going, hey, you've got experience with this drug? Tell me, why are these girls coming in saying that they love Xanax because it makes them invisible? That was another discussion, because I was like, damn, it made me feel totally conspicuous, because inside my head, I knew I was shut down. I knew I wasn't this. I knew I was basically incoherent and catatonic. I felt like huge, I stuck out everywhere I went, is how I felt. I learned a little truth about that later on. There is a kind of a combination of drugs with Xanax or benzo that, it caused people to appear. I've talked to a lot of people who were telling me this when I got to San Diego, actually, in Mexico. That, I'll do Xanax and, I think crystal, maybe drinking, I don't know. I'll put some combination and go, the next morning, black out, and the next morning I've got all this stuff that I stole. So, I guess it doesn't make you feel invisible, and you just go in and think you can and get away with it. I mean, that's how I was hearing all kinds of stuff, and that's how a lot of people work, getting stuff to sell, getting stuff for themselves, because nobody's getting the fair systemic treatment, and so it moves into places like that. But the other thing is, they wrap you so much up into this and tell you, no, you don't need to get a job right now. You are, so broken, and we'll get you on Social Security, and we'll get you on health care, and we'll get you food stamps. And once you get wrapped, I saw so many women get wrapped up into that, and then want to get a job, want to be the mother to their kids. They wanted their kids to respect, really wanted this, and devastated because they couldn't get there now that they were trapped in not just the counties and the city services, but us too. I was a caseworker going, I am wrapping them further up. And I was having that conversation with other caseworkers. 2 of us left in very short succession. She first, and then I followed. I was sick. I was losing weight. I really felt like there's the things I'm even doing to help my clients I would get fired for. I get in a lot of trouble for, but terrified for a young woman of 20, barely 20, who's gay, and having to go into a homeless shelter for the first time ever in her life just so she can get into a group home, hell yeah, I'm giving her my phone number and saying, if anybody bothers you, makes you uncomfortable in any way, you call me, I'll come get you. I get fired for that. I don't care. The systems are messing this up, and it is out of a narcissism. It's out of a narcissism that on one level says, we are just going to create crazy in you because the way that you act, the way you are, makes us uncomfortable. That's number one. Anybody who's marginalized, if you're getting pregnant, you're uncomfortable with that. If you're, you know, at all, you need to be drugged into submission somehow. You need to follow our program. Do it this way and we'll all be fine. You'll get along, we'll get along, we'll be happy, you'll be under our control. You know, that's the low key. You think you're getting help, but what you're really getting is wrapped up in something you may never get out of without losing your agency. You already have. I saw that 10 years ago. Just recently experienced something so next level gross here. I got into a doctor's appointment. It all seemed really good. I do need the medical attention. I really need someone to pay attention to this nerve damage in my foot and my leg. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm in here. Someone has referred me to this place, and as soon as I get in, it's a weird environment, and I'm not going to go wholly into that because there are abuses there that I think people will have really abrasive opinions on, and I don't want to pull out that beast right now. If anybody's familiar with these guys, you'll see they're called Oak Street Health. But what I saw in there, and then that weird, like, strange resistance to my even just calling them and trying to give them my new address, and then verify that they had corrected a prescription that they were supposed to send in. Couldn't get anywhere. I felt like they were trying to fight with me, and then I realized it's because they are so uninformed about what I'm saying that they're misinterpreting it in a really bizarre way, and that just kept phone call after phone call happening. And I realized that this dumbing down of our frontliners has really gone too far. This dumbing down and encouraging fear and suspicion and panic, like we do in the police with everybody. I'm afraid of you, and I'm suspicious, and what are you going to do to hurt me? And look, oh my God, you're scaring me. That people in trauma are experiencing that kind of stuff. And then on the other end, people just going, oh, well, what you're saying, you can't do that. You just can't call us for a new prescription. It's not a new prescription. And can you just, by the time, I just got frustrated with them, and it was 9 o'clock in the morning, or 10 o'clock in the morning, and I finally called the pharmacy to find out that the first thing the doctor had done is correct it. It should have been in their notes, and they could have said, oh, yeah, it's fine to do that, and thank you for your change of address. But it started looking really weird because then I started counting up the billables, and I'm on Medicare, so I started counting up the billables, everybody I saw, and one guy was literally just there to encourage me about how great the place was. Seriously, that was his billable. Who is making money on this? I go to look it up, and it's some 39-year-old white guy from Illinois at the top of this thing. And furthermore, this headline, it was like a PR piece. This headline says, the second highest paid CEO next to Elon Musk in the world. Who's this guy? I don't know his name. I'm not going to say too much because somebody might try to sue me. I don't have anything. But they'll definitely try to shut me down. The rest of it is like a PR piece going, oh, he came up with this great idea to help everyone with Medicare and just do all the services and pick you up and give you transportation and wrap all the services that you need right here. So there are billables for transportation. They offered that to me, and I was like, oh, that's great. Then I started looking at it in terms of billable units, and he is right out in the open saying, hey, guess what? Not only did we get Joe Biden to really help us get Medicare firmly in the private insurance sector now. It's not government, it's private. And so not only that, but here I, the not even 40-year-old white guy, gets to reap all the benefits of how we now can just milk Medicare. Again, I will say it is not the people needing these government supports, these essential supports, abusing them. It is the providers. On every level, it's the providers. And then furthermore, what we have done is dumb down our care team who answers the phone, our, whatever that greeter guy, I'm not even sure what they call that, who needs 15 minutes of my time just to reassure me of how wonderful they are. I don't really care. You're here to solve a problem. All the extras that they're throwing in there and the billables. I came out counting 8 or 10, just in one visit, 8 or 10 of those billable units, 15 minutes each. And it's not that I spent that time. I did. Wait a minute, probably more than that. I was there for a good 2 hours, but it was 2 people in the room at some point, both collecting billables. It's, it's a system. And this guy's brazenly going, yeah, hey, look, what a great thing I did. I figured out how to milk Medicare and fool you into thinking that we're taking care of you by taking up all your times. And they literally are those people that, yeah, if we don't see you within 3 months, then you are no longer a client. And maybe more often, if we need to, there's always that, and maybe more often if we think you need to. And then right away, after that first appointment, what I needed was a referral to a neurologist and a couple of other specialists. What I got was, we're not going to do your lab work today. You've got to come back for another appointment to do that. So that's going to be several more billables. And then after that, you need to come back the following week. This is 1 week, 2 week, 3 week. Following week, you need to come back and see this, what do they call him? PCP, primary care provider. For no reason, because really all she needed to do was give me the referrals to a neurologist and probably an orthopedist. Gynecologist. That's all she needed to do, and that's why I was trying to call with the address, because they needed that. But I ended up seeing what they were doing, going, okay, you're lining this guy's pockets, and you're okay with that, and you're okay treating your clients, your customers. So that within like a 24-hour span, they don't want anything to do with you. They feel so like assaulted by that weird, gatekeeper thing. I really get curious about how people are being trained, because I think it's a matter of misdirection, of disinformation about what they're doing, what they're supposed to be doing. Because I've even asked, like, what are you supposed to be doing in this? Why am I, as your customer, having so much trouble getting this simple thing done? That white guy making that money, that is the ultimate narcissism, systemic narcissism, and what he is doing, the way he is using income disparities so that people think they are getting a wonderful job with this wonderful healthcare company. What they're really getting is exploited. And I delicate territory here, but I keep saying I have got very strong opinions about who gets left last in all of these opportunities. The people who get the dead last chance, I swear, still, in education, in removal of barriers, in opportunities for even the employment. Black people whose ancestors were brought to or born in the United States, specifically. They're not very much present in that environment, but there are other people who are exploitable in terms of income and in terms of their understanding of their role in this whole systemic, weird, twisted environment. I'm going to leave it at that, because again, it's very touchy, and I have got points of empathy in pretty much every single area of marginalization. I just happen to see the reality that we keep pushing down on one particular population, and it is getting to a really ridiculously, we really, I thought we were stopping doing that. We had a few good years of we're trying to get this right. Really the 70s, 80s, it kind of looked like we were moving in the right direction, and nosedive. It's not okay. It's not fair. It's not right. And I think that the level of exploitation of ignorance and then just disinformation and muddying up the perspectives, muddying up the waters with who deserves what. It's gone too far, and again, I'm going to call it systemic narcissism on a lot of levels, helped along by those help imposters getting in the way of anything real and helpful being done. It's happening. We're letting it happen. And so there you go, is the next part of that big narcissism. It's a monster. And if we do not look at it in terms of that and again have a sense of urgency about pushing it back against it, finding other ways, getting away, just boycott as much as you can these kinds of things and find other ways, find mutual aid, find your own tools. Don't think that just because this person who's got some sort of in that false construct of power tells you that this is how you need to do it, that's the way you have to do it. We're fucking it up. Call it a negative attitude. It's not a negative or a positive. It's just what it is, and we can't change it unless we look at what it is. The positive in this is that if we start looking at it, then you call something what it is, you've got some power to change it. You take some of its power away. So look for that. It's a positive. Peace, loves.